Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Affirmation Addict Podcast. My name is Pyle, and today we are talking about sobriety. So in case this is a triggering topic, I just want to say I have no intentions to trigger anybody, to make anybody feel like they're not doing enough or that you should be living a certain way. I really want this episode to be space for me to share my personal journey. So it's not in an intention to make you feel bad about where you are on your journey or that you have to be doing what I'm doing. I just wanted to talk about this and open up about my experiences with sobriety and how it's affected my spiritual practice and spiritual journey all in all. So when I'm referring to sobriety, I am talking about all sorts of substances. The big ones I'm talking about is alcohol, like weed, marijuana. I think that's really popular now. Nicotine, vape pens, hookah, I don't know, all of it. To me, all of those are considered substances. So I am talking about that. I will dive into plant medicine later as well. I know people consider marijuana plant medicine because it is a plant. So I'm going to cover all of it, and I'm going to be completely unfiltered as I always try and be, and share with you my journey, my experiences, how it's affected my spiritual practice, as well as like what it took for me to get to where I currently am today and what benefits and differences I have noticed. Once again, this is not to try and convince you or tell you how great it is being sober. It is seriously just my journey. I get a lot of questions on this because I personally stopped drinking almost 4 or 5 years ago. I really don't remember when I stopped completely drinking, and I really love it. And I'm shocked because I actually used to drink a lot. Okay, so let me backtrack. Let me tell you about my journey, but that's what I mean about when I'm talking about sobriety. I'm talking about alcohol, different types of drugs, and even maybe plant medicine. And I will be fully honest about what I have done, what I have not done in my life. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, sorry in advance. I don't think I've ever told you all this stuff. So I'm going to be completely honest and tell you and take what serves you, leave what doesn't, or just use this as a story time. So for me, backstory, my parents don't drink alcohol at all, just by choice. It's not a religious thing. Like everyone else in my family drinks alcohol, but both of my parents, I have grown up watching them say no to alcohol, like won't even take a sip. Like they've probably taken a few sips over their lifetime at this point now, but like they won't drink a glass of wine just for fun. They won't sip on a cocktail. Like they won't do anything. Always virgin stuff, no alcohol when we go to restaurants, okay? So I grew up with two people, both parents, both parental figures in my life having zero alcohol. And I think that impacted my journey for a long time. No alcohol also meant no other types of drugs, no other substances. Like we did not have smoking within my parents. However, outside of my family, we did have people who drank, and I still do have people who severely drink a lot of alcohol, probably have some addictive issues, as well as people who smoke, like cigarettes, and also all sorts of other things. So I'm surrounded by the only two people I know from like start to finish who've never really drank is my parents. Not me, not myself, not my brother, not Tom. Those are the other people I spend the most time with, but basically completely sober their whole life was my parents by choice. And I think they've seen like the impacts in their own families, so I'm sure that's impacted their decisions. But it was really cool because I had a lot of respect for them growing up because it felt normal. However, things started to change when I got older, when I went to college, when I started just understanding what alcohol was, seeing how it was shown to me in movies, even all the sorts of drugs, right? And so when I was in high school, I was really young, actually. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I had older friends who were like my best friends. One of them was going to college, and she was like, hey, I want you guys to try alcohol with me before you go to college so you at least understand what it feels like. So I think we literally took one shot of vodka each. I was young. Well, I think I was young. In my opinion, that was young. I don't know what kids or people drink at this age or this day and age, but for me, I was really young. I think I was like a sophomore in high school. I had a shot of vodka, and that was it. Like we were literally in her room listening to music and we were dancing around. So she was like, I just want you to try it. Here you go. I remember when I took that first shot, I still remember like the room we were in. I remember the music we were listening to. It was such a big moment for me because one, my parents would be like, what are you doing? I was still young. I was still living with my family. And then second, it was something I hadn't seen people I really respected, or the people who raised me, I hadn't seen them do it. So it felt very foreign. I was going really out of my comfort zone. I was doing something completely on my own accord. So that was really different for me. So we took that shot, whatever. I didn't drink in high school. Like, I never felt the desire. I was like, okay, cool. A lot of my friends would go to parties in high school. I didn't feel comfortable. So I never really drank in high school. I would only drink if we were with my family in India and like the cousins were drinking. So I was drinking then. I never had a desire to like smoke cigarettes, never felt something, because I had so many family members who smoked cigarettes, like relatives, and either had lung cancer or certain types of things where I was like, this doesn't feel worth it. So I never felt the draw to smoke anything. I did smoke hookah a few times when I was in India. Because I thought I was cool. Straight up, I thought I was gonna feel so cool. So I smoked hookah a few times, and I would smoke hookah a few times in high school. So I would probably smoke hookah more than I would ever drink. And then when I got to college, that's when things started to really change. So then I started really drinking. I would drink with people I felt safe around. I wouldn't drink nearly as much with friends, but I would. But it was people who I'd known for a long time. But I would drink and by the end of like my drinking period, I could drink a lot, like very much. And that's okay. Like, no judgment. It's just crazy to look back on now. Like, and even when me and Tom were dating, like when we first started dating, he was in the military, and me and him just alone could put down a lot. So drinking was something it was normal. Everyone did it. You go out, you get shots, you drink. Like, I drank all the time. But what I would always notice, and I never felt good, I hated feeling hungover in the morning. And I didn't, like, drinking was fun, but I never was like, enjoyed the taste of alcohol if I thought about how I felt. Like, would I ever make this for myself at home? No, it just felt like the normal thing to do. So I continued to drink. I didn't think anything of it. I think I smoked weed in college like once or twice because one of my boyfriends in college, one of my ex-boyfriends in college was like, you should try this. I hated it because I felt very sleepy. Nowadays, everyone tells me I smoked the wrong type of weed, but honestly, I don't have a desire. Like, I don't have the desire. Like, I didn't understand, but because I had not even a bad, but an undesirable first experience, it kind of cut it off completely for me because I felt so tired. I was like, I hate feeling tired. I literally felt like I was like glued to my chair. I didn't feel like I could move. But that was once again in a peer pressure sort of setting. No one forced me, but they were like so excited. So once again, influenced by the people I was around, that's when I smoked weed. I think I smoked weed once and I had an edible once. I also don't know if I can talk this much in depth in a podcast episode. We'll find out. Hopefully it's okay. I feel like I'm not saying anything wrong, but I don't know, like in terms of legalities and stuff. So anyways, fast forward to, I think 4 years ago when I officially stopped drinking. The reason and the trip that made me stop completely drinking, I was with Tom and my brother and a lot of our good friends. We were in Vegas and we went to, if you've ever been to Vegas, they have like these bottomless brunches, meaning bottomless drinks and bottomless food. And you go and you sit there for 2 or 3 hours and you just drink your heart out and eat your heart out. And we went there, and my brother can drink a lot, Tom can drink a lot, obviously military, and my brother's a big guy. He's tall. He has a high tolerance. So I have really bad FOMO. That's another thing I think contributes to why I used to drink so much. I have really bad FOMO. And I realized, I was like, I'm going to try and keep up with you guys. So they would drink and I would drink. And for a while I was good. And I was not that bad, but I did black out because we drink so much. And I just remember feeling I was fully drunk, and I just remember having the thought, like, I actually hate feeling like this. Like, I don't want to feel like this. I want to feel back to normal. I want to feel in my own body. I want to feel coherent. And I've never had that clear of like I want to be done being drunk. Like, I'm over this. Like, that was such a weird experience for me because every time I'm drunk, I'm having fun, I'm laughing, I'm dancing with my friends, and I never was like, okay, I'm done being drunk. this was the first time where I was like, I'm done. Like, I want to be sober. So I remember we were walking around some of the hotel casinos. We sat down at a sports playbook. There's a picture of me and I'm sitting in Tom's lap and I'm just passed out. I was like, I'm going to sleep. I want this to go away. I'm done after this. And that was the last time that I ever blacked out. And that was the last time I stopped drinking, like, completely. And for a long time, I like completely stopped drinking. I never had any other substances that I worked with. So literally, I just completely cut it out cold turkey. I was like, nope, I'm just going to drink water. Like, I'm done. It was such a knowing moment for me. And it was a gradual buildup. Like, I started to realize I didn't love how I felt. And I was well into my spiritual journey at that point too. I've been on my journey since I was 12, but I had Affirmation Addict. I think it was right around the same time Affirmation Addict was born. So around that same time it happened. I think it was a year later. So a year after Affirmation Addict came into the world. And so that's when I started to realize, like, this is not for me and I don't like how it feels. So come to kind of a full circle moment, like, now I'm at the point where I go to weddings, I go to bars, I go to clubs because I love dancing, I love socializing, and I don't need alcohol. And when I was little, I used to be really shy. Actually, I used to hate dancing. I used to feel really uncomfortable. But like, I love dancing and I can do it completely sober. So I was like, the question I really started to ask myself is like, what benefit is the alcohol giving me? Like, I don't like how I feel when I'm drunk now. I don't like how I feel the next morning. I don't need it to socialize or dance. So literally, what is the benefit? And honestly, at that point, it was expensive. So it's like, I'm also just spending a ton of money on these drinks when I could just get water or like a soda or juice, whatever I wanted. So at that time, I was like, there is almost little to no pros except for the fact that everybody else is doing it and I can take shots with everybody. Like, that felt like the only pro. And then I started to notice the energetic shifts. And I think that's what really started to make the world of a difference for me, is the moment I got to the point of like, I'm completely done doing this. That's when I really started to feel like I am in my own power. I started to feel like I could take my power back. And it was a journey. There were times where I was like, why do I want to keep drinking? Why should I do this? Like, everyone else is doing it. How bad can it be? And I completely realized, like, this was just an aspect of me. I was living for everybody else. It wasn't for me. Like, the drinking, the smoking, the drugs, like, it just felt like a distraction that took me away from me. And there's a different side of it, right? Like, when you drink or when you do certain drugs, like, you're tapping into different parts of your brain. But ultimately, my belief is like, I can feel that amount of whatever people want to call it, right? Like bliss or looseness or freedom, just through meditation. Like, I've experienced that. I know that's real. It's just harder to do, right? It's a much quicker fix to take 2 shots of alcohol rather than sit in a meditation practice for 30 minutes for 30 days, right? That's a much different approach. And so I started to realize, like, I think the reason we drink so much, one, is because everyone else is doing it. It is so normalized. 2, I think it's because it makes us feel a certain way. And that feeling, now that knowing all I know about emotions and our brain and the way our mental health works, is we can tap into that through other spiritual practices like meditation or affirmations or tapping or moving your body. Like, you can access different sorts of highs and lows through other practices that are not external substances. And that really became my grounding force, because a lot of people are like, well, I can stop drinking, like, I don't need it, but I choose to do it anyways. And that was me for a while. Like, in the middle of college, I was like, I don't need alcohol, but I will still drink for a little bit. It was never like an unnecessary thing. It was never like, I don't want this. And then ultimately that shift came when I was like, no, like, this is not who I am, and I'm just doing this for everybody else. It finally came to me diagnosing that, like, part of me, and it makes sense, right? Like, my parents both didn't drink. I grew up around that and I don't need it. Like, it's not adding any benefit. So once I finally kind of was able to self-reflect and see all of those differences, then I was like, okay, I can completely stop. And now I have no problem not drinking, no temptation, no like, I wish I felt better. And honestly, like, I have so much more fun because I wake up and go to bed feeling okay. And a lot of people ask me, how do you not get drained? They're like, I could never go to a club sober because I hate it. And I'm like, then you shouldn't go to the club. Because to me, I literally still love going out. It doesn't bother me being around drunk people because they're just doing their thing. Like, I actually have fun people watching and observing and checking in how I feel and seeing how the energies feel, rather than a lot of people say, I could never do that sober. Then if you can't do it sober, then you shouldn't do it, is my perspective. But for me, people are like, how do you go to clubs? How do you go bar hopping sober? Because I love that. I love socializing. I love people watching. I love meeting people. So it's like, it is fun for me. It just feels like I'm hanging out. Why do I need alcohol? That's me though. That might not be you. But if you've ever said, I couldn't do this sober, then maybe that's something to work on rather than trying to like de-soberize yourself. Then try that. Like, that's a really powerful practice, because ask yourself, why couldn't you? Do you get embarrassed when you're dancing, or do you feel drained by all of the energy of people? Like, ask yourself why you couldn't do it sober and then work through that. A lot of people ask, how are you not drained when you're around all of these drunk people? And it's because I don't let them drain me. Like, I'm in control of my energy. There is a very depressant energy when you're around a lot of alcohol, and I'm sure you've all felt it. And that's why we do feel hungover. Not only is it like alcohol, but it's also an energy hangover. And I still will get those time to time. So I call it an energy hangover, where I'm out with a lot of people, I'm socializing, and my energy is just drained, and I have a lingering kind of hangover like feeling, but I'm completely sober. You might feel an energy hangover plus a real hangover and not really know the difference, and that's fine. I really encourage you to try going out sober and seeing if you still feel an energy hangover, and then you'll kind of start to notice the difference. Because for me, I stopped receiving energy hangovers when I learned how to protect my energy and actively protected my energy when I was going out. And I would stop kind of being on a high horse that I didn't drink. It wasn't to show people like, I'm so cool, I don't drink anymore. It was because it was the right decision for me. So some of the things that helped me stop receiving energy hangovers was judging people who were drinking. I used to heavily judge. Ask Tom and my brother. I used to get so judgy towards them and rude and be like, drink water, where it's like, you know what? They can handle themselves. My journey is not theirs, and they can do what they need to. And so that big thing was judgment. The other thing was just protecting my energy. Like, I will carry like a crystal in my pocket, or your intention is everything, right? Just feel like nobody's energy can penetrate mine, and I feel good. Like, I am protected and I'm allowed to have fun, even if I'm on a different like subconscious frequency than everybody else right now. I'm allowed to have fun. And so a lot of people will come up to me and be like, are you drinking? I'm like, no. They're like, literally, you seem like you're drinking. And I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, but ultimately being completely sober has allowed me to be unapologetic about who I am, be authentic, and be my truest self. I think a lot of us love alcohol sometimes because you do get loosened up, right? Like, you get that liquid courage. I know the feeling. Like, it calms you down a little bit, and then you get to do whatever you want. You don't care as much. But what if you could be like that all the time? What if you could feel so courageous and so fearless all the time? And that's what I really believe my spiritual practice and just being intentional about how I drink and my sobriety journey, I really think it's helped me like be able to like literally go twerk on my friends, even though I'm completely sober, or just go dance or go hop around and be silly. Like, I think a lot of us use alcohol or any drugs or substances as a permission slip to be our true selves or to be a weirder version of ourselves. But when reality, when you can start accepting who you are, then that weirdness, that authenticity, that true version of you is allowed to come out, and you're able to embrace that throughout your day. Like, that's what makes you you. And so I think instead, taking away the permission slip that drugs or alcohol give you to act a different way, I think it has been the biggest spiritual awakening for me to completely cut out drinking, because I can be whoever I want and I own it and I live in that, rather than giving the permission and giving my power away to an outside force around me that, okay, thank you, alcohol, you allow me to be more free, or you allow me to dance more free, you allow me to be more social. What if I work on that on my own first and then don't even need the alcohol, right? That was my journey, and it's become my reality now, where I really don't need alcohol, and I can also party and stay up late and not need a single thing except water all night. Maybe food, because I need food. I love food, but like I don't need any other things in my life. And it's been so freeing because I feel like I took my power back, and I'm like, I can be my wild, crazy, weird, a little bit silly self, and it feels so good. Like being able to tap into that on your own, being able to express myself so freely has been the most powerful thing for me. And so in a spiritual sense, I went into very story mode. This is so much longer than I thought, but is it necessary to not drink on your spiritual journey is a question I get a lot. And no, I don't think so. I don't think it is necessary to be sober to be spiritual. I do not associate sobriety with spirituality. I don't think that's fair. I think it depends on so many different factors. Like for me, I was raised in a sober household. It was so normal for me. So it's not that odd for me to be completely someone who doesn't drink, versus if you might have parents who drink all the time, or who just, it's normal to have a glass of wine, then that might feel normal for you. Like it might not be your baseline. My biggest invitation to you is, instead of trying to completely become sober based off of listening to this podcast, go and check in with yourself. How do you actually feel about alcohol? And do a little exercise and check in. How do you actually feel about weed, alcohol, plant medicine? And just check in with you. If nobody was watching, if no one cared, if no one could tell, would you do all these things? And for some people, they're like, yeah, I think it's fun. For some people, it's like, absolutely not. I do it because I need a certain thing. And you can start to diagnose for yourself what your best pathway is. So no, I do not think it's necessary to not drink. I am a really big advocate for spirituality not being a comparison game. So for me, my sobriety helps my spiritual journey. But for other people, it might not. Like some people love plant medicine. Some people love like the mushrooms, the ayahuasca, and weed, even like CBD. Some people love all that stuff. But for me, energetically, it didn't feel fully aligned. Who knows? It might change. And if it does change, I will tell you. But I've actually never even partaken in plant medicine yet, which is very big in the spiritual community, because once again, my belief at the moment is you can access everything through meditation. So I feel like I can access that connection to ayahuasca through meditation or through sitting with myself. I think I can access those same benefits. I do think plant medicine gives you that same thing that regular drugs do, right? It gives you a speedier way to get there. But ultimately, I would never do plant medicine because it's something I couldn't do on my own. It's maybe because I wanted to experience it, or I get a calling to experience it, but it's not because, to me, I think we can access all states of mind, being, and consciousness through our own doing. I firmly believe that, which is why I think it's so easy for me to become completely sober. And then the other thing I want to share with you is like, instead, just practical tips on drinking is you don't have to make it a big deal. Like, I think it feels like such a big deal because it's so normal, but like just normalize it. Be like, hey, if you feel scared, like telling your friends, you don't have to tell people, just get like vodka sodas, right? Like that's a very popular drink. Just get soda water with a lime in it, and it literally looks like a vodka soda. That's number one. And it kind of tastes the same, because vodka sodas, I don't think you can really taste the vodka. So you can just get soda water. So it's still sparkling, has a lime or a lemon in it. You can also ask them to do like soda water and cranberry juice. Like you can get different things. And when you're at restaurants, be like, hey, can you make a non-alcoholic version? That's becoming more and more popular. For alcohol, I think it's super easy. For things like weed, vape pens, nicotine, hookah, that is harder. Like that's not a substitute, but you can just say, hey, I'm not feeling it. And don't be afraid to communicate that forward. Just be like, no, I'm having fun. Like I'm happy to be here. And if you can't do that, then remove yourself from the situation. Don't be afraid to take yourself out of something if you're working on it. However, I think most people say, like on the spiritual journey, a lot of people give the advice of just remove yourself completely from the situation. I think that's really good if you have like an addiction problem or it's very hard for you. But if you're just experimenting with your energy, don't be afraid to just sit there and let yourself be uncomfortable. Let yourself be uncomfortable by not taking hookah. Most real, true friends will be very supportive of it. All of my friends, they get so excited if I'm like, oh, like so recently I felt the call. So I now do this thing where on my friends' bachelorettes, so like when my best friends are getting married, I will take one shot and it's like a juice down shot. I did that once for one of my best friends' bachelorette. I did it for another one of my best friends' bachelorette. And then I did it for a friend's birthday. I was like, I will take one completely watered down shot. And actually, I did go to the bartenders, and if my friends are listening, sorry. I went to the bartenders and said, hey, actually, can you just make it completely non-alcoholic? So they literally just gave me juice. So you can work around it. So for two of them, I did have alcohol. So recently I have had alcohol. And then for one of them, I definitely just took a juice shot because everyone was too drunk. And I was like, I don't actually want this. And so I was like, why am I even doing it for their birthday? It's like unnecessary. I always cheers with my water. I always take a sip of my water. Or if you want to be part of a shot, like go get juice or go get literally water and take a water shot. So don't be afraid to be creative in helping you on this journey. And my biggest thing is, if you had to say one thing, I think becoming sober completely in all realms right now really helped me step into my unapologetic self. It really helped me get to know who I am in multiple settings with multiple different opinions, with multiple people. And it taught me how to protect my own energy in different settings, because in the middle for a while, I would hang out with all my friends for hours. We typically pack our weekends in because we have so many friends who live in Arizona. We pack our weekends. We are always doing things like 6 a.m. to midnight is normally like our Saturdays and our Sundays. We have really busy days. And so it used to be draining. And now I can like so proudly say that it's not draining. And I completely owe it to what becoming sober has taught me. Like, I can be myself. I'm allowed to protect my energy, and I'm also allowed to step away and take a breather. So when I do get overwhelmed, I go outside of a bar and I'm just like, take a few deep breaths. I'll tap through a quick routine on Affirm It and I'll go from there. But it's like having fun and being able to actually do that for yourself and show up for yourself, I think is one of the most empowering things I've done. So I would love to hear your feedback on just sobriety as a spiritual practice and on your spiritual journey. It's been super interesting for me, and the whole plant medicine thing too. It's something that I've never had the call for. Until recently, one of my friends did invite me to something. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet. I'm nervous and I don't feel fully ready yet, but if anything changes, I will keep you posted. But even plant medicine, right? Like mushrooms, microdosing, ayahuasca, like the frog poison, like I think that's called kombu or something. None of that has called to me yet. And I feel really good still. So it's like, ask yourself, why are you doing it? What benefit is it giving you? And is it necessary? That is my big takeaway for you. And thank you if you made it to the end. This was a longer episode than usual. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm so excited to hear your feedback and your own thoughts on your spiritual journey. So I love you and thanks for being here. Mwah. Bye.